Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Welcome to The Open Door. Jim Hannock here with friends John Breen, Mario Ramos-Reyes, Christy Yao, and a special guest, Purity Thomas. We'll begin with a prayer. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful, and kindle in them the fire of your love. Send forth your Spirit, and they shall be created, and you will renew the face of the earth. Lord, by the light of the Holy Spirit, you have taught the hearts of your faithful. In the same Spirit, help us to relish what is right and always rejoice in your consolation. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Our focus today is a promising new organization, reLOVE, and its service to teenage mothers. Our dear friend Christy Yao has secured us the visit of the director of this organization, Purity Thomas. And we have a batch of questions that we'd like to ask. And of course, it begins with a background for the organization. I'm going to ask Christy if you could lead our discussion, and when the time is right, give us a nod so we can chime in.
All right. So thank you so much, Purity, for agreeing to be here. I met Purity when we went to the Rehumanize conference this past fall. I don't want to say the adult in charge. That sounds wrong because she's done so much more, I feel like, than I have for being 16. Are you still 16? Have you had your birthday? I didn't think so.
I'm 16.
So, okay. I wanted to make sure I was getting it right. I think on one of the past shows, someone said something about when they were 21, or someone accomplished something when they were 21. And I said, well, I don't remember what I was doing when I was 21, but I know it wasn't good. I also don't remember what I was doing when I was 16. Not as bad as what I was doing when I was 21, but probably not too good. So why don't you give us a little, with that said, a little introduction, a basic overview of reLOVE and why it started.
Yeah, so it's called reLOVE because we believe in loving and reloving teen moms. So we have a variety of options that we give to teen moms. So we help with like emotional support, especially when these teen moms find out they're pregnant. As you can imagine, they think it's the end of the world. So knowing that there is someone there to support them 24/7, it helps them so much. So basically, we are all online. So we're through social media and text messaging and calling. And these girls can literally call us at any time, whether they're having an emotional breakdown at school because someone said something to them, or they're about to go to a doctor's appointment, or wherever they are. They can call us. They can get immediate support from us and encouragement. So that's one of the things that we offer. We also offer like financial support. And that will help with like doctor's appointments or, throwing them a baby shower if their family isn't doing that. So various things come up. Sometimes a mom needs diapers because they just ran out or whatever. So we can help out with that. So there's baby items, maternity items. We help them find out jobs and help them with job resumes. And then we help them prep for interviews and everything that you can imagine that would help them. Through making a pregnancy a little bit easier. So the idea came from after I got punched in the face a year ago outside of a Planned Parenthood. And from that incident, I received a lot of different messages from people, some of support, some of hate. And it just made me, it reminded me that all of us are human and all of us deserve love. So I had always known that I wanted to do something in the pro-life movement, and realizing that there are so many young girls out there who just need love and support. I started reLOVE, and it's gone from there. So yeah.
That's awesome. I think not to be too much invoking past shows, but I think it was our past show where I talked about how at that Rehumanize conference where we met, I went to, and I think you were in the room with me. The Democrat for Life, I'm blanking on her name, but the woman from Democrats for Life's talk about how to stop abortions for women with crisis pregnancies, and she said the biggest thing that they need is just someone to be there with them, just someone to hold their hand and say it's okay, we're going to get through this together. So I think you're doing really the most crucial work in the pro-life movement.
Well, as a teen mom, they're facing this unplanned pregnancy, and their family might not be supportive, their friends might not even know, or they're not supportive. They have to go to school and they have to face the criticism there and all sorts of stuff. It gets a lot of pressure on them. And, in the pro-life movement, we see that pressure catches up, which is why abortion with teens is so popular. It's because, there's all these pressures, and just having someone support them and say, we love you, we care about you, you can get through this, you are strong enough. It brings an impact onto them.
Exactly. And I can't imagine. So when I was a teenager, which wasn't that long ago, 10 years ago, I think things were pretty much the same, except now there are so many more options for social media. When I was in high school, Facebook was pretty much it. Some people still had MySpaces, but they were pretty weird. And now it's just it's in your face. Everyone has smartphones. Everyone's constantly snapping pictures. I do it, I'm sure. I see all the teenagers I know do it. I see the kids I babysit do it. I feel like that's so much more pressure.
Right. There's the social media pressure, and the social media has absolutely become bigger over the years. We have Instagram, we have Snapchat, we have Twitter, we have Facebook that's grown with millions of users, and a lot of teenagers. So that's why we're all online. It's a perfect way to get to them. It's much more comfortable for them because they can just text or call without having to commit to an appointment at a crisis pregnancy center. So yeah, there are advantages of social media.
And that kind of leads into my second question. How does reLOVE different from other crisis pregnancy centers or crisis pregnancy organizations?
Yeah, so a crisis pregnancy center or a crisis pregnancy organization normally is focused in one area, like a region or a town or wherever. For us, we're all over the United States, and then some internationally. We've kind of gone international a couple of times. So because we're online and, we have this reach to teen moms, we do have a bigger success. Also, another great thing is our whole team is teenagers. So teenagers connecting with teenagers, they're easier to open up about what's going on without feeling judged. And that's a really great thing because, as a teenager who's facing an unplanned pregnancy, talking with an adult is probably the last thing they want to do. So talking with a teenager about whatever it may be, some of our moms will talk to us about the problems at school, and we understand because we are there in school with them. We understand the pressures of school. We understand family problems or whatever, and all the teenage drama that we might have to face. So we understand that, and just helping them kind of coach them through it, and being there for them without being super judgmental or even having that idea that we're judgmental because we're not adults, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. So how do you teenage mothers find you? I guess people who aren't really familiar with the different platforms of social media might think, well, are you just sitting around in the bat cave waiting to get your little teenage mom signal? How do they kind of connect with you?
Yeah, well, because there's so many different social media platforms, we can connect with different moms. So whether a lot of pro-lifers are slowly picking up on referring people to us. So there's that plus. We've had several moms be referred to us from pro-lifers who are like, I don't know what to do. We're going to send you here. So that's been helpful, but also just our website. Sometimes we'll run ads on Instagram, which is a very popular teenage app. So that helps, like if someone like comes across our ad and be like, oh, I know someone who's pregnant or whatever. So that's really helpful. We also, one of our social media director runs a smaller platform on Instagram. That's an unplanned pregnancy help account. And we get a lot of girls there too, because it's like unplanned pregnancy is in the name. So we get to help girls there and educate them and help them through whatever they're dealing with. So yeah, mainly like getting referrals though has been the number one recently.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your impact and your success stories.
All right, I will try. We can't, of course, like give out names or information or anything like that because we do have a confidential policy. But we are definitely making an impact. Of course, we've helped 10 plus moms, or we kind of put them in the same category, but there are some teen girls that come to us who are scared they're pregnant, but they don't know it or not. So kind of stepping them through, all right, well, when was your last period and stuff, just trying to figure that out, and then trying to get them a pregnancy test or whatever. So there are different clients that we have. We have the ones that are actually pregnant, and then there are ones that were just scared and ended up not being pregnant, but we still keep in touch with them, make sure they're doing good. Either way, so there's a little bit of sidetrack. So we do have an impact. We are getting a following on social media. We are getting referrals. People are slowly realizing, we are making success. And well, I mean, we've helped over 10 moms since March when we started. So I think that's a bit of a success right there. And then we've helped one mom out of a domestic violence situation. And her baby was born just recently. He was born 6 weeks early, but he is doing amazing, and so is the mom. So that was really, really successful because, we got her out of a really difficult situation. And then the baby was born, and it was all really nice and happy, and everyone's doing really well in that situation. But there also have been really downsides of working as an organization. Because we see moms come from these difficult situations, domestic violence, or we had this one mom who she had a miscarriage and we had to help her through that. And, there's all these different things that pop up in a pregnancy. And, just that, it puts an emotional toll on us as well, because, we're like trying to be supportive of them and everything, but it's also like, wow, okay, these girls are facing so much. So we have helped a lot of girls through difficult situations. We've also saved 2 babies from an abortion, and 2 moms were one mom was about to make an appointment and the other was abortion minded when she came to us. And they changed their minds. They were like, we're going to do this. We're going to need support, but we're going to do this together. And we're going to save the baby and go through with it. So they saved the baby and they're doing really great and everything. So there have been success stories. I would tell more. Some of them I can't get into details because they're still in success, if that makes sense.
Sure, that's awesome. That's awesome how you're intersectional. You're not just saying, well, we're going to have crisis pregnancy support, but that's it. You're getting into these girls' lives. You're helping them figure it out. And that's all about what I think the movement should be more into. I apologize for our youngest panelist. He has very, very intense subjects, very intense feelings on the subject. So what are your ideas for reLOVE moving forward? What are your ideas for kind of helping the organization grow?
Yeah, So, well, first of all, we're planning on going to the March for Life. We're planning on meeting with a bunch of bigger pro-life leaders to kind of interact with them, tell them what we're doing. So kind of getting our name in there. Also in 2019, we are planning on starting sexual education videos, not the Planned Parenthood edgy type. We've decided we're not going to do that. But fighting the actual Planned Parenthood narrative is one of kind of my goals through reLOVE, because, of course, Planned Parenthood is always getting into teenagers' lives, whether it's through their schools or through social media, and through their sexual education videos. So we kind of were like, okay, we're helping teen moms, but how do we also prevent teen pregnancy? So we're working on creating a sexual education videos that we can produce and have on our YouTube channel that we're going to create. So we're looking forward to that. That way we can start educating teens. We do have a lot of teenagers that come to us and they have no idea if they're pregnant or not, or if they even have sex or not. And we're like, okay, we need to start educating teenagers and being teenager to teenager, but also educating. So we are also planning on doing a labor and birth webinar, not a literal live labor or birthing webinar here. We're going to educate teenagers on what is happening to their body during labor, and knowing their rights during labor. A lot of girls do not know that you can actually say no to a doctor. So no to having a C-section or whatever they might want to push on you for a pregnancy, even if it's just giving you a medication, you can say no to that. And a lot of times they will just say yes because it's a doctor and you should trust them. But there are times that you can say no, and just knowing those rights, we're trying to educate them. So we're getting a few midwives and doulas together and hopefully doing a national webinar at some time next year. We're also planning on doing a text hotline for girls in serious situations that they can text with a simple number, and they can text us, and then we'll help them through, coaching them through on getting out of that situation. So we have some ideas. We're also throwing around some more ideas for 2019. So hopefully something big.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of Planned Parenthood ads on, it seems like every time I go to a new website, I have another Planned Parenthood ad. So I'm really glad.
It's crazy. One of the things I will say, sorry, I know I interrupted you. One of the things I'll say is, especially on the teenage apps like Snapchat, if you ever go into the Explore, there is probably I want to say 10 of the Explore videos that you can watch are Planned Parenthood sponsored. And it just drives me insane because I'm get out of my Explore. You're not looking at the right person. But because I know that it's such a popular teenage app, Planned Parenthood does anything to get to teenagers. So we're kind of just hoping to counteract that and be hey, instead of going to Planned Parenthood, you have reLOVE, where we're going to help you find better resources for you and offer real support. So
that's awesome. I'm so immensely awed at everything you're doing and everything reLOVE is doing. It's probably one of my favorite, organizations. One of my favorite, definitely consists of my favorite people. And I'd like to open up the floor to our other panelists to kind of, air your thoughts or whatever.
Well, Jim here. I have one question. You're 16. What's going to happen in 4 years when you're no longer a teenager?
I've actually thought a lot about that. I do hope to pass the directorship on to another teenager because I want to keep the teens running a teen organization. So hopefully we're around in 4 years. I don't see it dying out yet, but I'm definitely hoping to find someone to take my place in 4 years.
Yeah, and you know, too, that as soon as you're 30, no one will trust you.
Oh, I hope not.
What I find immediately instructive in what you're saying is the presence of Planned Parenthood, aka Planned Baronhood, on Snapchat and Instagram in the form of the ads. Being over 70, I had no idea that was the case. Do you think that's widely known by other people in the pro-life movement?
What was that question?
Well, whether the pervasiveness of Planned Parenthood by way of advertising on Snapchat and Instagram, do you think that most people in the pro-life movement are aware of that? I certainly wasn't.
I think the younger generation is aware of that. Like the Students for Life people and all the students that work with them and those who actually have Snapchat will realize, oh, this is a Planned Parenthood ad. But definitely like older generation people who have been in the pro-life movement for so long, they don't realize, that social media has such advancements and that Planned Parenthood is in the middle of it. So I think it's maybe split. There are people who know and there are people who don't know, but then there's the people who are doing something about it. So yeah.
I'm 24 and I didn't know. Like I use Snapchat sometimes, not too often because I am kind of old. And I certainly not as much as like the 12-year-old I babysit. And now I'm like super concerned. And I'm so happy I like kind of have that on my radar now to watch out and like kind of mentor them in a different way.
I think it also depends on like if you put on an age, like when you sign up for any like social media platform, you have to put your date of birth. So they kind of play on your age. So they pull in like different stuff that might interest you. And for some reason, Planned Parenthood is all over mine because I'm 16. And it's just like they're pulling in all this sexual education stuff and will try to be sexual education stuff and just all this random birth control and abortion and stuff. And I'm just like, hey, stop clouding my Explorer. But then I realize, that's other people are seeing that too. And it's like other people are vulnerable and don't know as much as I do about those subjects.
Yeah, I would imagine they target it to different age demographics differently. I usually get the Planned Parenthood, like kind of political ads really geared towards, I guess, politically minded people in their 20s. Like, our doors won't close, donate to Planned Parenthood. And I'm like, please.
No, I always get the birth control ones. Like birth control, like don't tell Trump not to take our birth control and stuff or whatever, don't take our birth control away. And I'm like, I'm not on birth control, but I'm not getting my birth control from you either, ever.
I wonder, still thinking in terms of age, I wonder if John Breen is aware of this social media phenomenon with regard to Planned Parenthood.
I know that that Planned Parenthood is making every advance it can as abortion becomes more legal and more accessible in each state. But I'm not really on social media a whole lot. I'm just kind of limited to the phone and email. But I have no doubt that Planned Parenthood will use every tool in the tool bag to reach out to the incoming generation.
Mario, have you ever heard of this before?
Well, no. Unfortunately, I didn't. Probably that means that I'm getting old. But I have a quick question, I think. I believe was said here, but I really missed explicitly what the answer was. How a teenager can contact you if she is going through tough time and she doesn't know she doesn't know much about what to do, where to go. how do a teenage mothers contact you?
Yeah, so we were kind of talking about the whole social media thing. So we're on social media and we have our website. So if there's also like our phone number and stuff on our website and social media platforms.
And I wonder if there's some sexism kind of going on between women, really. I mean, obviously, for biological reasons, women are contacted by Planned Parenthood in terms of the pill and things like that, although male birth control is becoming kind of a thing, more of a thing. But I do wonder if there's some like sexism and targeting. And baby Andrew has intense feelings about that, so I'm going to turn my mic off now.
Oh, there definitely is. You know, the target is women because, of course, that's where the abortion money is. You know, you get pregnant and an unplanned pregnancy or whatever, and you need an abortion, then go to Planned Parenthood. That's why the ads are all over, because you know that Planned Parenthood is like the place to go because their ad is on social media. Same thing with like Planned Parenthood getting into schools and such. You know, we've heard of them getting into elementary schools to do like sexual education. But, you know, I've looked at the curriculum and it's meh. So they start off young and then they, you know, these kids grow up and they have this trust in Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood was there when they were a kid, and then they get an unplanned pregnancy and where to go but Planned Parenthood, because Planned Parenthood is so trustworthy because they've been there for so long. And, you know, same thing with like social media, an ad pops up and it's an immediate thing that would come to a girl's mind. So
Let me shift a little bit here if I can. You say that you've been able to work with 10 young women,
mm-hmm.
And in terms of numbers, well, 10 is terrific, and a lot of people would say, how about 100? How about 1,000? At the same time, I think it's extremely important that in many contexts, but surely in the context in which you're working, that we, what should I say, understand full well that each and every person counts and that doing things well for 10 people is already an extraordinary success. And we don't have to, at least I don't think you have to, worry and scurry about getting up to 100 people or 150 people.
Honestly, I feel like it would scare me if we got up to 150 people.
Yeah, in the context of education at the grassroots level, there's an organization that's really a disorganization called Each One, Teach One. Each One, Teach One. And with regard to problems of illiteracy, the idea is, well, very often people who are adults and are not literate deal with a certain shame and are very, very hesitant to come forward. But the idea is if they can be reached one by one, that would be an enormous accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my background, not all of it, but a lot of my background really is from the Catholic Worker, launched by Dorothy Day and Peter Morin in the early 30s in the very heart of the Depression, which to a 16-year-old must seem the way what the migration of many people in Europe to the United States in 1848 seems to me. But one of the things that the Catholic Worker has always done is to have houses of hospitality. And the idea is a small group of people would commit themselves to helping out another small group of people. And a house of hospitality would be much less forbidding than, say, a trip to social services and going through what needs to be gone through in order to get support from the county, as they sometimes say. But actually, and this is my real point, Dorothy Day said houses of hospitality are great, but what would be even better is if those who follow Jesus would have a Christ room in their own house and an extra place at their own table. And that would mean, in effect, each one teach one. And so I'm just putting in whatever plug I can put in for many people doing things that are relatively small things in extraordinary ways, and not worrying over much about becoming bigger and bigger and more organized.
Yeah. We're just settling on the fact that, we are helping moms, and we might not get the recognition for that, and that's okay. We're just going to help them as much as we can, and hopefully impact others to do the same.
There's something certainly to be said about, don't worry about the candles, just keep them lit.
Yep. Very true.
Go ahead.
I think it's great how it's kind of helping people in your community, but in this kind of globalistic world, your community can be here, or it can be 10,000 miles away, or it can be wherever. And that's really what you guys are doing. You're reaching out to people in your demographic, in your age group, and just being there for them and really being hospitable towards them. And that's, I think, the greatest thing you can do for somebody.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely was not expecting to go international when we started. And then we had this one girl come from London and Nigeria. And, it's just like, oh, okay, we are going international now. But, just helping, hopefully just being a light to all of the world and all of the U.S., that's just what we're hoping to do. Even if it's a light to one girl, not that everybody might see it, but being that inspiration and that encouragement to one girl, that's enough for us.
I don't mean to add any note of negativity, even though I've sometimes been charged with being a nattering nabob of negativity. But to pick up on John Breen's point with regard to candles, plan B is this: both light a candle and curse the darkness. Which means there's a first and foremost role for practicing the works of mercy, which you are doing. Mm-hmm. But there's also a role for prophetic speaking of truth to power, which in a way is what the March for Life is doing. Isn't that right? Both. Why not do both?
Absolutely.
Of course, I could see that Mario, his picture up here, I could see it. He's looking kind of skeptical, but he's from Kansas.
No. I agree with you, Jim. Yes, it seems that we need to be a witness on the one hand, and the other doers. Do something for our neighbors. So I think it's we are creatures by nature, political creatures. So somehow we need to announce to the big public, if you will, that what we are doing, and show to power who we are. So we are not invisible beings who are doing certain things without consequences. So I think it's part of our way of being Christians.
Yes. I'm wondering, Purity, if with respect to some of the plans you have, you mentioned midwives and doulas in particular, and I'll bet I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, and I'm probably speaking about something you've already done. Feminists for Life seems to have a very practical, direct approach to helping women deal with difficult pregnancies. Once upon a time, my wife wrote a few pieces for one of their publications, and they seem to be very focused and very practical.
They're amazing. I love them. I got to talk with them over the summer, and just talking with them was amazing because they're just so, as you said, direct. And I love their organization so much.
Yes, Sarah and Foster, right?
Yep. Yeah.
She even spoke at my one-time university place of employment and did extremely well. And because we talk about local things and national things, a local group here in Los Angeles, although it too became, in a way, international, is a group called Shield of Roses. And the way that the Shield made, I think, the greatest impact, although again, we don't have to make a great visible impact, is that its founder, Jerry Urrutia, would follow the moms who had a change of heart as they approached the abortion facilities, follow them along through birth, and support them in many ways, the sorts of practical ways that you're speaking of, and have pictures of them with their babies, maybe after 6 weeks, maybe after 6 months, maybe after 2 years. And she had a great big banner, Jerry Urrutia, great big banner with pictures of, maybe 40 different moms and their babies. And when she would go to a parish here, a Catholic parish here, to speak, she would unfold the banner. And quite often, some woman on the banner would be there present with her. And you couldn't help but think to yourself, what I'm seeing now are the pictures of babies that they came so close to death, but the people from the Shield of Roses were there, spoke convincingly, credibly, and continued to be there. And to see these pictures, it was so striking.
Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned about continuing to be there is honestly, I've learned to find it funny when pro-choice people say that pro-lifers are pro-birthers and they don't care actually about the woman. They just care about the baby, and then after birth, they just leave. Because I find it funny because, we've seen so many organizations that don't do what they say we do. We stick by the moms, we help them, we support them. And for us, we have no set age limit of when, your child is 2, we're not going to help you. We don't do that. We always help moms no matter how old the baby is, because we also know that motherhood continues to be hard. Financial problems continue to be hard. So we understand that it's not just, unplanned pregnancies that are hard. It's also motherhood that can be hard. But yeah.
Purity, you began almost by saying you're 16. How is it that you came to know these truths, and truths they are, at 16?
Well, I mean, I've been active in the pro-life movement for a year, nearly 2 years now. I was 15 last year and started working with Students for Life of America. Honestly, I used to be more pro-choice than pro-life. I mean, I was raised in a very Christian home, but we never really talked about it. And, from an outlook of what I knew of abortion, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, that doesn't seem so bad. But then, I started researching and found out, it is much bigger than I thought it was. And it is a big deal. So, just being active and just researching is how I know a lot of the different things that I do.
What form did the research take?
This is going to sound so funny. But actually, the writer of the Broadway musical Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda, he came out in support of Planned Parenthood. And that made me so mad because I loved Hamilton. But I was like, how can you write a Broadway play about a guy who was a founding father who believed in the, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and the unalienable rights, and yet you support a organization that wants to take away the unalienable rights of unborns? Like, that made no sense to me, and I got so mad. So I started researching, and now here I am.
That's intriguing.
It is. I find it so funny because, I was raised pro-life, but I ended up kind of being pro-choice, not identifying as pro-choice, but, it's just like, didn't know much about the subject. And then out of nowhere, I was like, I'm going to research this because Lin-Manuel Miranda is supporting Planned Parenthood, and I don't like that for some reason. It just struck my mind as wrong. And, well, obviously, I'm glad I did the research.
That's awesome. Actually, didn't know that.
No, I know.
I'm happy you shared that with me. Yeah. I have a kind of similar story to how I became involved with the pro-life movement. To give you kind of this 2-second version of it, I was watching Freakonomics with a friend, and they were saying how abortion on demand is so necessary because we have had a reduced amount of crime since abortion on demand became thing, because the women who would have had babies, would have been criminals. And I was like, wait a second. If they're not,
wow.
Yeah, I know. And fortunately, I was a college student in psychology at the time, so I'd studied kind of socioeconomic trends and knew that wasn't true. But I was saying, well, yeah, if they're not human, sure, let's abort them all. Who cares? But if they are human, this is an awful thing to say. And I started bawling, and my friend who I was watching it with was so confused, poor guy. And that's when I kind of decided, hey, I need to do something, because there's something extremely wrong about this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It is crazy the things that'll trigger people into, researching or, even becoming pro-life. And it doesn't have to be some dramatic life event. Just whether it's, someone saying something or some television show or something,
I think in some ways it's going to be harder and harder to say things for various reasons, and I'll suggest two. I think the downfall of Donald Trump is right around the corner, and I won't miss him, not in the least. However, he has done many things of great significance in terms of pro-life efforts, but in a way, he's tainted the pro-life movement. And I think that the backlash is going to be fierce, and I think it is going to come very soon. That's point one. Point two, just the other day, as in 3 days ago, lead columnist, regular columnist, I think every day or at least every other day in the Los Angeles Times, named Robin Abkarian, did a piece, was front page of the California section of the LA Times, which I think is very revealing. The title of the piece, well, it usually doesn't come from the person who writes the piece, but the title is Brown's Bitter Pill on Abortion. And Brown is Jerry Brown, who's about to leave office. And Robin Abkarian begins this way. It takes a particularly privileged, out-of-touch person to tell college students in California that it's no big inconvenience for them to travel up to 7 miles to obtain an abortion pill. Well, I don't know. The idea is if you have to travel 7 miles and somebody tells you, yeah, you're going to have to travel 7 miles, that makes you particularly privileged and out of touch. Well, that easy rhetoric is everywhere. But now I'm going to skip to the second page because this was longer than her usual column. Abkarian says this, I have always been pro-choice, but there was a long period of time when I thought it was necessary to offer caveats because of the emotions that this debate stirs up. Notice she doesn't say arguments. Because of the emotions that this debate stirs up. It's a difficult decision, it's a necessary evil, and it should be, quote, safe, legal, and rare, the Clinton-era catchphrase. She continues, I'm done with that. I refuse to bemoan it as a necessary evil, though for some women it may be. I no longer describe it as a difficult decision, though for some women it may be. I celebrate it as one of the safest medical procedures on earth. I embrace it as an essential tool for independence. So I think that thought, which is hardly original to Abkarian, is going to be more and more and more mainstream. And I'm not one who pays much attention to celebrities. Maybe I don't get any credit for that because I don't even know who the celebrities are most of the time. But I think that, number one, there's going to be a profound backlash when Donald Trump goes his not-so-merry way. And number two, we've got, it's California, it's Los Angeles, but we've got front page celebration of abortion. So I think we're going to have, as they say, challenges.
I definitely agree. I think that we have seen more and more of people starting to celebrate abortion, especially with Planned Parenthood and, or this new movement, what is it, the Shout Your Abortion movement?
Yes.
And so I think it has become a very dark time where, there are even some people, I've been seeing some people who are admitting it is the murder of an innocent person, but then they're like, but I still love abortion. And I'm like, how can you even put those two sentences together? So I think that, we are hitting a really dark time in our society where, even if people are realizing that abortion is murder, we've just become so dark that it doesn't even faze us.
Thoughts from the others here?
I think
You're a little muffled, John. You're a little muffled. Go ahead.
Of people being, I think a combination between the where they're losing the public conscience, and as well as a loss of common sense. Because I sit sit down with a few people at my place of work, debating whether life begins at conception or not. If life begins at conception, that is a living human being that as such, that person is entitled to protection under the law. And that should be a no-brainer for most people. And if life does not begin at conception, then when does life begin? You know?
Mario?
You're right regarding Trump leaving office before his time, so to speak. There will be a backlash, and perhaps we may want to start thinking about or reflect about the fact that politics is not what we really need ultimately, rather than start changing hearts, start announcing who we are as humans, rather than just trusting power politics. And that's, I think, it's something that many people already warned long before. But again, we are going to face that reality, I think. And on the other is what John is saying. To be honest, I'm not sure that making arguments about whether we are person from conception, as much as this argument is true, people just grasp what that really means. I think we have moved beyond rationality in this country, and I think around the world. It seems that there's a cognitive dissonance among people. Yes, they listen to the argument, but they don't really listen in at the same time. So we are moving by emotions, by, feelings, whatever I feel at the moment. And I think that's pervasive. And that is enhanced by the social media to some extent, because we are moving from one picture to another all day long. We don't have really time to be quiet and start thinking about reality. And that is, I think, the situation we are in a world which is completely irrational to some extent. And you see that in politics. I think this morning I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal, which I rarely do, but it just got my curiosity. And precisely was the argument that the last two presidents were moved by emotions, how people perceive them, and so on. And so that's the stage we are in. And sometimes I'm wondering what would be the best approach to announce that there is a dignity in this unborn baby. It's just making an intellectual argument, or it's just love that person as he is. And I think it's something that is going to be even more pronounced as time passes, precisely with the challenges you announced after this presidency.
Well, since we're in agreement, and since we're also in agreement about how we can combine things, and if we can combine, well, what are really the works of mercy with politics. And since we're pretty close to the end, it always creeps up on us in this show. I wonder, Christy, you're in touch with a lot of things that Mario and I aren't in touch with, and you're involved in politics. You're involved in politics in a way that purity, as far as I know, isn't. So how can there be a politics of love and light and reason? Can there be such a politics?
I believe there can be. I believe the political sphere in the United States, as far as the mainstream kind of dichotomy, Republican and Democrat, does not look promising. I don't think anyone will be surprised and shocked to hear me say this. I think the kind of polarization, the ideology, the kind of me against them mentality, it's very damaging. It's damaging for all forms of human dignity, from the preborn to the single mom to the homeless to those about to face death. But I do see a light in the younger generations. I definitely see a light in the people who haven't really entered that mainstream political sphere, rejecting that dichotomy, rejecting the mainstream Republicans and Democrats, rejecting the ideology. I see a lot of hope in young people kind of saying, hey, we don't have to, like purity, we don't have to just be pro-life and just be kind of pro-birth. We can be pro-life and be pro-all life and be pro-life at all stages. And I really think that's the trend I see now. And that's so heartening. And I hope that really continues. And I see that obviously in the American Solidarity Party. I kind of hope will continue to grow and at least have some impact and attract new members with our promise of being pro-life for the whole life, of caring about all citizens, not just, we don't have any big donors right now, but not caring just about our big donors, not caring just about our special interest groups. So,
Purity, you just heard somebody who's a mere 12 years older than you talk positively about the potential.
8 years older.
Yes. Talk about the positive promise of politics. Could that be right? Could she be right that there's some political progress that we could make?
I think that we would have to have a serious start over with politics. So I think in a sense, Christy is right, but in a sense, we have so much wrong in politics that we would have to have like a serious do-over in politics. We would have to change so many laws. So I think that there is maybe a hope, but it wouldn't be like a hope that tomorrow or a hope that President Trump can give or the next president. So I think that, it would be something that we would have to really hang tight on. I personally don't try to get into politics because I find all politicians are liars and trying to get people to support them.
Not Christy! Not Christy!
I'm
don't
sorry.
say it!
I'm
don't
sorry,
say it.
Christy! Okay. Most politicians in office.
I know.
Most politicians in office, try to do whatever to get people's support, agree to something or disagree with something just to get, support from different groups or different types of people. So I think it's really twisted in that sense. I personally find that pro-life politicians just say they're pro-life and to get pro-life support. And then once they're in office, they don't do anything or they don't make actual pro-life laws. So I find that really discouraging. But who knows? Maybe I'll run for office someday. Just hold tight. I'm kidding.
I see a Yao Thomas 2030 bid in our future. I don't know.
Have you been to Iowa lately? I think you have to start early and you have to start in Iowa. I think Christy's got a junket all lined up for Iowa.
Well, I guess I'll have to be running against Christy then. We'll see
whoa! Already there's a split.
Oh no!
We'll see. She is 8 years older than me, so we'll see.
We have 2 minutes left, and I want to say that next year is coming very soon, and somebody who's promised to rejoin us on a more or less regular basis next year is Brian Carroll of the American Solidarity Party, who is pro-life for the whole of life and who is going to be running for president. So he'll get his thoughts as they are funk on air. And
this is great news.
And announcement number 2 is we're not going to run next week. We're not going to run this panel because it's too close for Christmas. But we'll be back after that, and I'll be in touch with all panelists on how we'll regroup after the Christmas break. And because we're at the very end, I'd like to close with the gospel from today's liturgy. It's from the gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to the crowds, "To what shall I compare this generation? It is like children who sit in marketplaces and call to one another. We played the flute for you, but you did not dance. We sang a dirge, but you did not mourn. For John the Baptist came neither eating nor drinking, and they said he's possessed by a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they said, look, he's a glutton and a drunkard and a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom will be vindicated by her works." The gospel of the Lord. Thanks to all of you. Won't see you next week, but wait till the next week after that. God bless. Come, Lord Jesus, come.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.